Hello, fellowship listeners. This is Tony Bacardi. Yes, the Tony Bacardi. Here for my friends at Howie's Market. Yes, the Howie's Market. Howie's Market has been a longtime supporter of the Fellowship Podcast, Nation Golf, and the Nation Desert Classic. They're a family-owned grocery store in the San Gabriel Valley with the best meat and seafood departments in all of Southern California. They also offer everyday essential items like the big stores, but with the personal touch of a mom-and-pop shop on the corner of a neighborhood intersection, because that's exactly what they are. I love Howie's Market. I've been there twice myself, and I live 114 miles away in Santa Barbara. And you best believe I'd be going twice a week if I lived closer. Howie's Market, 6580 North San Gabriel Boulevard. Stop on in, tell them Tony Bacardi sent you. Or give them a follow on Instagram at Howie's Market.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Fellowship. My name is Adam Hawk. No Ryan Engel this week. He is in Hawaii, specifically Maui, and I know he's sipping on some Mai Tais and pina coladas and keeping the bartenders at Duke's well greased, as he alluded to on last week's episode. So Ryan is not here, but that is not an invitation for you to stop listening to this podcast, because somebody else is here. And this person is no stranger to the Fellowship listeners or the Nation community members. One might actually refer to this gentleman as a legend in our little carved out niche of the golf world. He is a multi-time Nation Desert Classic participant. In fact, he's been on a first place team and most recently a last place team after he himself signed and turned in the most heinous incorrect scorecard in the history of golf. He has made a name for himself against his will after his performance on our Christmas show 2 years ago that ended up with him passed out drunk, face down on our bathroom floor. But this is an all-time good guy, the very definition of the word loyal. And he was my 3-day golf partner earlier this summer out at Rams Hill for the Clash. Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't already know, I am, of course, talking about the one, the only, Tony Bacardi. Tony, I would ask you how you're doing, but that question deserves much more than the standard, typical response that you or anyone else would probably give me after that introduction, because, let's be honest, my man, you are going through it right now. And we're going to get into that momentarily. And in advance, I appreciate your willingness today to be open and to share and to be here, because I think a lot of our listeners want to hear from you right now. But it's Sunday night. We typically do this on Monday. It's Sunday night. I'm down here because I want to pack orders and avoid coming in on Monday. You happen to be down in the area as well. This worked out. I'll talk about that in just a second. But what were you doing down here in San Clemente, and why are our paths crossing right now?
Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah.
It's awesome to see you guys. I wish Engel was here, but it's great to see you. I was down here for the Gillis game. Gillis, as everybody knows, Matt Gillis throws a game every Wednesday. About 2 months ago, I found out that they play a similar game on Sunday, similar skins game down at San Clemente Muni, the Pride of the Pacific, as they call it. And I always love coming down and hanging out with the guys and throwing the ball around a little bit. So I hit you up and said, "Hey, Hawk, were you going to be around?" I was thinking of stopping at your house or something on the way home. Didn't know that you were going to be down here. So I'm happy our paths crossed as well.
Yeah, me too. It was awesome. I saw your text this morning, Sunday morning. You had hit me up on Saturday night asking what I was doing today, Sunday. I didn't get back to you till this morning. I told you I was going to go to church, and then I was going to head down to the shop to pack orders. I didn't have a podcast co-host this week, and I hadn't figured that out. So the fact that you and I have done a show together before, the Rams Hill show, we taped for 3 days together.
Want this one to be better, by the way.
I liked that one. I thought you did great on it.
Well, there's something to be said about doing podcast clips at 8:30 and 9 o'clock at night after we've been in 105-degree heat.
That's true. Also, we did such a good job with that storytelling podcast about Rams Hill, and I was expecting that Rams Hill would share that podcast amongst their network. They chose not to. because of one line in the podcast. And it was you making fun of the fact that residents of Borrego Springs do not have teeth.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. No apologies from Tony Bacardi. Just a...
Well,
okay.
I apologize to the teeth that remain in Borrego.
So Rams Hill told me that was an amazing podcast. We loved it. We would have loved to have shared it with our network, but we have a staff that is made up of Borrego Springs residents. And because they live and work in Borrego Springs, the fact that your co-host that week, Tony Bacardi, took a shot at their dental hygiene, we are going to omit this from our email marketing, and we're not going to share this podcast.
Well, just to be clear, I wasn't. It wasn't a comment or a commentary on their dental hygiene. I think it was more about their dental availability. So it's not. I'm sure the teeth that remain are beautiful and shiny and clean.
This is a great double down. But I was ecstatic to hear that you were going to be down here because, one, you solve a problem for me in terms of hosting the podcast, but two, you and I have not hung out since then, since Rams Hill.
We haven't, no.
I haven't seen you since then, and as alluded to at the top of the podcast, you're going through a tough time right now, and there is no time spent like time spent in person. So the fact that I get to hang out with you and we get to do this is awesome. So let me catch the listeners up. This might be a little hard for you to hear back, but it's the truth, and we're going to get into the truth. Your dog, your bulldog Porter, who you have had for 12 years, passed away late last month. You and I have been talking since then, but I reached out recently and asked if you were doing okay. And you wrote me back very honestly, verbatim, quote, "Not really. I'm just going through it. My dog died, relationship issues, PTSD, and medical issues now. A lot of heavy stuff all at once. It is a dark time." Now, obviously, super sorry to hear that. But I'm also very glad that we got to run into each other today so that we could spend this time. And I know part of the reason you drove down from Santa Barbara to play in the Gillis game is because you wanted to get out of the house. You wanted to see other people.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I get to be one of those other people that you get to see today. But this is your story, not mine. So what has been going on besides what I just said, or give some color to what I just said? What's been going on in your life these past 4 or 5 weeks?
Oh, wow. Well, I think it's more than just the last 4 or 5 weeks. I think it's been a very trying time. I think everybody goes through trying times. For me, it's been a challenge for me personally. For people that don't know me super well, and again, a lot of this is my fault, but I'm like an onion. You know, people see what I let them see. And depending on my level of relationship with them or friendship, depends on how deep you get with me, like which layer you see. I'm grateful to have friends like you and Ryan and be able to get down to those deeper layers. But for me, it's really been a challenging time. You know, for me, that's the best way I can say it. I'm an incredibly weak individual when it comes to my constitution. A lot of people think, man, like, you know, I've gotten countless DMs and people reaching out and text messages and phone calls about, man, you got this, and it's difficult to, you know, respond to somebody and say, no, man, I don't have this. I'm going through a hard time, you know, down to when people ask me how I'm doing, and I just tell them I've been better. You know, I'm not the kind of guy that be like, I'm good, how you doing? You know, I'm not that kind of individual. And, you know, I've gone through some dark times in my life, but this is right up there. For people that don't know, Porter wasn't just my dog. He was an emotional service animal. For those that don't know, I suffer from a little bit of mental illness, PTSD. I call it a mental illness because it's what it is. PTSD kind of gets thrown around nowadays, and it's very, very loosely used. Oh, I have trauma from this and trauma from that. And I think that when you really have it, you take it a little bit more seriously. And Porter was somebody that was a sense of security for me. And so his passing, while not completely unexpected, has been a lot tougher than I originally thought it would be. It happened, semi-suddenly. And when it happened, I wasn't really that affected. But the days since and weeks since have been incredibly difficult. So,
do you mind me asking, and you don't have to share if you don't want to, but what your PTSD stems from?
So, as you know, most of the listeners know I work in public safety, and I have witnessed and participated in some pretty traumatic events. Witnessed some things that I wish I hadn't. I'm not going to get into all of that, but these things have a lasting effect. In my past, these are things I've struggled with. Porter was somebody that saved my life, I believe, and since he's been gone, I've felt and this is the best way to say it. This is the best way I've kind of self-diagnosed myself, is that I feel incredibly lonely. There's something about a companion that helps you get through life, and that can be a human, it can be an animal, it can be a family member, and it's just very hard. And like I was sharing with you before, I'm pretty emotionally disabled. Let's just say it that way. I'm not very good at expressing my emotions, but it doesn't mean I don't have them. I've tried to cry. I've tried to lash out. Sometimes as men, I think a lot of us are emotionally disabled. And when we try to emotionally express ourselves, it comes out wrong. That's why a lot of men get angry instead, or they default to their factory settings and they just go all machismo and I've been guilty of that as well. So it's been incredibly difficult thing to deal with through the years. And Porter was somebody that, I even talk about him like he's a human. He was an animal that really helped me through a lot of that stuff. So, and him being gone is not a surprise. I knew he got diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and he had a surgery back in December. They told me he may live till March. So I think I was preparing myself this entire time. But I had my support system was a little bit more different then. It's just been a lot of things at once that is, and things can kind of, snowball on you.
I know you're a man of faith. You and I have had a lot of great conversations about faith. We're both believers in God. We're both Christians. I saw on Instagram that you had posted, and I give you credit for being so open on Instagram. You had posted that during this time you were feeling an absence of God. Not that you didn't believe, but that you just couldn't feel the presence of God when you needed him and need him the most. Do you still feel that way?
I'm a big, one thing about me, Hawk, is I'm not perfect. I've got I don't have a lot of qualities that a person would say like, oh, this guy's this or this guy's that. A lot of things that I would agree with, if you tried to flatter me and say, oh, he's this or he's that. Not a lot of stuff I would agree with. But one thing I think that I would say that I have is integrity. And what I mean by that is when I've made a mistake or when I've screwed up or when I've, done something that deserves consequences, I own it. And I think that a lot of what I'm going through right now is a product of my own actions, my own thoughts, my own attitudes. So when I'm in a mode where I feel like God isn't there, or not feeling the presence of God. A lot of it is I blame myself for that, because the Bible says, draw near to God and he will draw near to you. And I think that my biggest mistake that I've made during this time is it's been hard for me to draw closer to God, because let's be honest, when you're going through calamity, when you're going through trauma, when you're going through trying, anxious, worried, heartbreaking times, it's hard to find the good in the lesson or whatever it is that's you're supposed to learn during that time. That being said, to be 100, I think I am struggling with feeling that.
Yeah.
It's sad to say. It's not something I want. It's something I struggle with every day. And I don't know if anything can fix it overnight. I really don't. But you can't help how you feel. And if you're going to be honest with somebody, it's best to be honest about that basic thing. It's kind of like you have to start from the bottom,
Have you been honest with God about that? Have you gone to God and said, I can't feel your presence right now and it is killing me. Where are you?
I think that one thing that I've said over and over and over since Porter passed away, and I think it's a moment that I won't forget. When Porter was put down, I was 90% sure that it was going to happen that day. And I didn't have the moment that a lot of other dog owners have where I had it, but it wasn't this really sad moment where he's lying on the floor and I'm hugging him type of thing. I want all the listeners to know that Porter died on his feet. It was one of the oddest things, and the vet said it was one of the oddest things. They give, if you guys don't know what it's like to put your dog down, they give him a sedation shot that they would give him like for anesthesia for a surgery that just makes him go to sleep, and then they're just sitting there snoring. And when Porter was given that, he stayed on his feet. Like, he didn't lay down. He just put his head down and started snoring, which I thought was hilarious, because I've never seen him, for a dog that spent 60% of his life laying down. It was just really odd. And the vet asked me if I wanted to hold him. And I don't mean to go on a tangent about this, but I'll land the plane. I didn't want to hold him because I know that kind of gave him anxiety when he was, alive and healthy. And then when he went to sleep, she just kind of looked at me like, what do I do? And I said, well, let me hold him. And so I held him. And then when they gave him the second milky fluid that they give to dogs to stop their heart, he just kind of went over like a tree. And I asked if I could take his collar off. They said, absolutely. They were very nice. The vet that had Porter was upset. She was crying because she had taken care of him through years of, his surgery and his, all that stuff. And I left and I put his collar in the passenger seat. And the reason I'm bringing all this up is on the way home, I filmed it, put it on my story, even on Instagram. And I just said, God help me. And I've said that over and over and over again. God help me. God help me. Every time I'm starting to feel a certain way, God help me. Porter's death isn't the only thing on my mind. It's not the only thing, but it was something that I think woke me up to a lot of stuff. And my theme has been God help me. And when you reach out for help, whether it's to people or God or whatever, and you're just able to surrender yourself and say, God help me. It's the plainest. I don't have a poetic way to say it. And so when you say, God help me, there's an arrogance, I think, to some people, maybe myself, and say, hey, I've been studying the Bible. I know the Bible. I've prayed a majillion times. I've, been a man of the faith. I've done my best to be a good Christian for the most part. Why do I feel this way? Why are you not making me feel better? Why are you continuing to not only, allow me to go through these things, but you're taking more things from me? It seems like there's been more and more stuff. and you just keep saying, God help me, and you feel like you're falling. And I feel like I try to draw inspiration and do all the, God's breaking me down so he can build me back stronger or whatever. But it's just really hard to reconcile that. It's hard to see that.
Yeah, it's totally understandable. We have a Bible study on Sunday mornings that I co-lead with my pastor, Brian Maxwell, and we just went through a chapter in this book called Rooted, called Why Does God Allow Bad Things to Happen to Good People? And it's very interesting because in it is a part about double-fisted faith, where in one hand, it's faith that God will do what you want him to do. That's in one fist. And then the other fist is, even if he doesn't, I still believe. And that faith has to be both of these fists, because if it was only one fist of I only believe when things go well or I get what I want, that's not faith. That's transactional. I believe in you because I get what I want out of it, versus I believe in you in both circumstances when I don't get something, because I know that you work in mysterious ways. I know that things are on your timeline. And then I think God will force you to consider other blessings in your life when you're going through bad seasons. And I'm not here to preach at you. I think it's completely honest, vulnerable, and powerful what you just said and what you're going through. I also think that you have so many people that love you, and you told me before we started this podcast how many people have reached out to you. And I think the only thing worse than being sad is being sad and alone. And I know you were mentioning loneliness, but I do take some comfort in knowing that you, my friend, are hearing from a lot of other people who want to shoulder this burden with you. And I do feel bad for the people who go through this and they don't have anyone to reach out and kind of take that off of them. So I love that you're so open and honest about this journey. Another thing that I saw from you was you put on Instagram that you wanted to be done beefing with anybody and everybody. I think you worded it like, if I've ever wronged you, I'm sorry. I want that to go away. If you've ever wronged me, you don't need to apologize. I already forgive you. I don't want beef with anybody anymore. Where did that feeling come from? And is that a feeling that you still have today?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, I'm an imperfect person. And sometimes things happen in life. And look, I'm 45 years old. I'm entering my middle age, if you want to call that. And things like this happen. There's, like I was telling you before we started the pod, there's a lot of new normals in my life. And I'm not comfortable with any of them. And I don't like any of them. And I wish none of them were happening. But they are new normals. And I'm having trouble figuring out how I'm going to get to these new normals. How's my life going to operate? One thing I thought I needed to do was evaluate my life. And I just started thinking about, like, if I want people to forgive me for things I've done wrong, or if I leave this earth for one reason or another, death can make you evaluate things. Medical issues can make you evaluate things. Ends of relationships can make you evaluate things about your own self and your own shortcomings. And I am in a serious place where I'm evaluating myself. And I think that for the most part, I just wanted to clear the air. I reached out to more than a few people and said, hey, look, let me just be honest about how I feel. And you don't have to respond. You don't have to, don't expect anything from you. I would just really like the opportunity to clear the air. And I was able to do that with a few, and not able to do that with a couple others. I'm going to be completely honest. There are times when I'm laying there at night and it's just me in the house, and I'm contemplating, like, how much longer I'm going to be on earth, and those are tough. Those are very, very, as a person that has a history of that stuff, so it's a very sobering thing to think about. And what would somebody remember me for? And not even necessarily death, but just, you move away, people move on. They maybe get into another relationships or add other friends, or they move on in life and you move on in life, and you want them to have a good memory of you, not a bad one. And I think part of it was like, look, I just want to clear the air, and I want there to be no problems and no hard feelings and no, on my side. I think, and I'll be, again, 100% honest, a lot of it was just me searching for an avenue to feel better. And I felt like when you have drama with somebody, or you have some sort of beef with somebody, even if it's petty or if it's legitimate, those things kind of are like the sour milk in your coffee, you know? And I just feel like you got to get rid of that stuff if you really want to like enjoy life. And for me, it was just a way to try to like purify my life a little bit. And so there's a lot of ugliness in my soul. And so trying to rid that stuff as best I could, you know? So yeah, I 100% feel that way. I don't want problems with anybody. I know anybody that knows me, that follows me, knows I'm a very strong, opinionated person. And if I have an opinion about X, Y, and Z, I have no problem saying it. But all that stuff is kind of over for me now. And I just don't want any problems with anybody. And I don't know how it's going to work out. I don't know how it's going to play out. Don't really care. Yeah. To be honest, I don't really care how it's going to play out. I just know that I want my soul to be a little bit more purified than it was the day before. If I can wake up the next day and feel like better about you or this person, then mission accomplished. So,
yeah. Last question on this, and then we'll switch gears and we'll have a little bit of fun, if that's cool with you.
That's cool.
I don't want this final question to come across as insensitive or crass, but I am wondering, given what Porter meant to you and given the fact that he was a service animal, are you planning on getting another dog?
No. Look, I've heard from a few people, hey, get another one. You know, you've got so much love to give. Go, you know. Best one I've heard was Ryan Engel. I think that, and I want to say this real quick before we move on. Ryan Engel, guys, catches a lot of hell on the podcast for his opinions and the way he expresses his opinions. But I got to tell you, out of the dozens of DMs I've gotten, if not 100 DMs or text messages of people just saying, hey man, just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. Sorry to hear about Porter, yada, yada, yada. Ryan has been a friend. Doesn't expect a long text back. We haven't talked on the phone. He left me a very poignant voicemail, a very good text message that I ended up sharing on my story, and the reactions I got to that text message were profound. And I just want to say that, guys, what you guys see of Ryan Engel is an onion, and what you guys see of him is 100% real. But you dig enough layers back, you will see a very, very articulate, very thoughtful, very spiritual man. He's been a light in this tunnel that I've been going through, and he's a true friend. I hope he hears this tomorrow or whenever, and I just want to say thank you to him. He's been incredible. But he was one of the ones that said, "Man, get another one." He goes, "Every time I go through this heartbreak and I swear up and down I'm not doing this again, I jump right back into it." Maybe one day I'll get to that point. For me, it's a lot like changing relationships. It's hard for me to be in love with somebody and then just jump into something else and pretend like it's the same. I've heard all the stories about, hey, your dog is up in heaven and wants you to give that love to another dog. And I've seen all the memes and about that and all that. Maybe one day I will. Right now, to be 100% honest, it's really hard for me to feel like I can do that.
Yeah. Appreciate that response. And I appreciate what you said about Ryan, because I've experienced very similar things. He's helped me through a lot, not just one or two things. Every time I've got something big going on, I use him as a sounding board, and he gives great advice. And beyond that, he will check in with you afterwards to see how it's going.
Yep.
He is one of the most generous people I've ever met, and sometimes I think that his tough exterior is more exhausting for him than it is for anybody else, because it's what he's known for. And if you're kind of known for being a certain way and you got to continue to carry that because you got to live up to the hype that you've created, I think sometimes you want to just say, hey guys, I'm actually one of the nicest, sweetest, caring people in the world, and I would love to let down this Tips from the Tips character so I can just be who I really am. And that's not to say that he's always playing a character. He is exceptionally funny in that shtick that he plays. He's one of the quickest, wittiest guys anyone has ever met. His insults will cut you to the bone. Mm-hmm. Not me. I just laugh them off because I have to. Yeah. Otherwise, I would be nothing but cut up bone. But inside of all of that, like you said, is just a very, very good friend. And when my dad was going through his stuff this summer, Ryan was checking in all the time. The time. And he's a guy that's gone through a lot himself. And so he comes at it from a perspective of experience. He's lost his dad. He's lost plenty of friends. He's lost a couple of dogs. So he knows what he's talking about.
Yep. And it's easy for me to listen to people like that. I just feel like he is a genuine individual. Mm-hmm. I think no matter what you think of what he says or his opinions or whatever, because I'm going to tell you guys right now, nobody argues with that guy more than me.
That is true.
I have no problem telling him he's full of this or full of that, or I'll come at him in the text messages or whatever. And I think I've gotten him a couple times. I got him to tap out a few times, but when it comes to this kind of stuff and buckling down and being a true friend, whether it's picking me up off the floor in the bathroom or just talking me off the ledge, I think the guy is a genuine individual, and we need more of those.
It's funny. We've spent the last 5 minutes giving him very, very sincere compliments, and when he listens back to this, the only thing he's going to hear is that part where you just said you think you got him a few times in arguments.
Oh, he knows.
That will be the only part that sticks out to him. He never got me. I've never lost an argument to Tony. I can't believe he said he got me a few times.
I know when he'll give me a big. We'll be arguing and I think I'm one of the only guys that can be as short and cutting as he can. Not quite to his extent, but I kind of give it back to him a little bit. Little sarcastic, snide remarks that double back to something he said earlier or something like that. But he'll write me a long thing and then I'll respond back something that I know I got him when the next one is short. Whatever. Golf is stupid.
Yeah.
And that's when I got him.
Right.
Got him.
Well, let's see if you agree with Ryan on this opinion, and you talk about a segue. Ryan thinks that my soccer team that I'm coaching having a tie in the record, despite having no losses, means that team is not actually undefeated. We've never lost. We've had a tie. Do you agree with him that a record that has a tie in it does not constitute being an undefeated record?
If we're being technical, a defeat is a loss, and if you haven't suffered a defeat, then you're technically undefeated by the definition of the word. However, the term undefeated is a lot like the term undisputed, in that it carries a connotation that it was just undefeated, nobody came close, we won everything. Mm-hmm. And I think. And I don't know how many people are going to agree with this, and I don't want to offend anybody that's a soccer fan, but soccer is the stupidest sport ever.
You're offending me.
Well, the reason I say it's a dumb sport is it's really silly that you can have an entire game, whether it's kids or adults, run around for 90 minutes and then just end in a tie. Somebody's got to win. Sudden death, PKs, flip a coin. Somebody has to win and somebody has to lose. And so when you go through an entire season and your season comes down to a tie, well, it's like, well, we didn't lose, but you also didn't win. So in my mind, you're undefeated when the season starts and you're 0-0 in the same way. So you wouldn't say, well, we're undefeated. You would technically be correct. If the season hasn't started yet, you could still say you're undefeated.
And I do.
And that, but in that sense, you would still be saying you're undefeated and you would be technically correct, but it doesn't carry the same connotation as being 10-0 or 9-0 or 12-0 or whatever.
I get what you're saying. the New England Patriots, I think it was '08 when they went 16-0 before your New York Giants got them in the Super Bowl, which coined one of the greatest taglines of all time. 18 wins, 1 giant loss. I love that tagline that came out of it. In the regular season, if they had gone 15-0-1, 15 wins, no losses, 1 tie, would you still have honored that as an undefeated season?
No. And I will say, because when people think of undefeated football teams, they think of the 73 Dolphins.
72.
Or I'm sorry, the 72 Dolphins.
Yep.
And they think of, what was it, 14-0.
Yeah. At that time, 14 regular season games.
14-0, and that would be it. Now, did the Patriots finish undefeated in the regular season? Yes, they did. However, if you don't win the last game of the season, I think Tommy Lasagna said it doesn't matter unless you win the last game of the season.
Yeah.
So, in true, that's kind of cool that we brought that up with the Dodgers doing what they're doing, but you got to win the last game of the season in order to be undefeated.
And I bring it up because my soccer team that I'm coaching came into this weekend 7-0-1, 7 wins, no losses, 1 tie. We had a very difficult opponent this week, 2 regular season games left, and we are chasing, in my mind, an undefeated season. Whether you or Ryan agree with it or not, we're chasing an undefeated season. And we played a very hard-fought, very back-and-forth game that ended in a 0-0 tie. Or as they would say in football, a 0-0 draw.
And on the pitch.
Yeah, on the pitch. And I can understand how, if I were to tell someone we played to a 0-0 tie, their natural inclination would be to say that had to have been the most boring game of all time, a 0-0 tie. This was anything but. This was tense for 50 minutes, 25 minutes each half. It was incredibly tense. Each team had their chances. Each goalie made some big saves. Some breakaways were stopped by incredible defense. And we were on a razor's edge. And the tie in soccer gets you 1 point in the standings. A win gets you 3, a loss gets you nothing. So by earning that 1 point in a 0-0 draw, we clinched the division with 1 week to go, which is cool to clinch before the season's over. So we are now regular season champs. We have 1 regular season game left.
Now, when you say regular season champs, do you get a certificate? What does that mean?
Yeah, they go down to FedEx, Kinko's, they print us a certificate. What it means is that there are 7 teams in the division, and after 10 games of soccer, no one can catch our record. No one can catch our point total.
So this is kind of like the 1927 Giants that won the football championship because they played 10 games and had the best record, so they just gave them a ring.
That's great. Yeah, but we actually have playoffs.
Got it.
Playoffs come.
Do you get a benefit for being the regular season champs, like a first-round bye or something like that?
We are the number 1 seed, so our first game in the playoffs will be against the number 4 seed. The top 4 teams go to the playoffs. So we will play the 4 seed in the first game, and if we win that game, we'll wait a couple of hours, and we'll play the championship game against the winner of the 2 and the 3. So 3 games left, 1 regular season game, then 1 playoff game, potentially 2 if we advance to the championship. We are chasing the undefeated record this next week in the regular season. Then there's an end-of-the-year party in which I will give speeches about every girl and give them a trophy that they actually earned. And then we will, the next week, go off and play in the playoffs, which is rare air for your boy here. I've coached 5-6 seasons.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey for you.
Yeah.
I remember listening before, and you guys have come a long way.
Thank you very much. And I think a lot of people feel like it's much more entertaining when I was losing every game.
I don't think soccer's entertaining either way.
Okay. That's fair. Fair enough. I am having the time of my life coaching these girls. And
Absolutely.
I want to make it clear, I coached 1 season of boys soccer, and I wanted to quit after the first practice.
I bet.
7, 8-year-old boys, nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Girls, good listeners, nice, kind, respectful, super sweet to be around.
I will say this, Hawk. If you win the last game of the season and you end up being the champions, I think you could say you're undefeated. Okay. But if somehow it plays to a 0-0 tie and there's some arbitrary guerrilla math number that comes in goals scored in the morning as opposed to the afternoon, and you guys are wearing pink jerseys instead of blue, and that's why you guys win, or something like that, I think you'd be really hard pressed to say we are the undefeated champions. I think they would be an undefeated but disputed championship.
Fair enough. Hopefully we make it undisputed so we can
that would be good.
Undefeated. You know who did not win their last game of the season? And maybe some people listening are here to drink my tears. If you made it to this far in the podcast, you're not going to get any because I'm not that sad about it. The Seattle Mariners lost in Game 7 of the ALCS against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Toronto Blue Jays are playing your Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series in a series that is now tied 1-1 after the Dodgers got one last night. They're off tonight. Tonight is Sunday. They're in LA on Monday. A lot of people reached out after the Mariners lost that Game 7 because our podcast went out late that day, and it was all about how much of a nervous wreck I was. Ryan Heron, a fellowship listener, had sent a gold bottle of Seattle Mariners champagne. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great of him.
Yeah, it was very nice.
Was very
Ryan
awesome.
Engel later called that, after the Mariners lost, a bad omen. Said that Ryan Heron jinxed it because there was champagne given to me before there was a Game 7 win. Whether he's correct or not doesn't matter. That champagne was not cracked. It remains in my fridge, and it will be there for a long, long time. The Seattle Mariners, 49 years into their franchise existence, remain the only team in Major League Baseball history that has not even appeared in the World Series. It was a magical run, a heartbreaking finish, but similar to how you're hearing from a lot of people that you haven't heard from in a long time. For 2 straight weeks, I heard from people that I haven't heard from in 10 or 15 years. Guys I went to high school with, guys I used to work with in sports radio who only knew me as being a Mariners fan. It was a reminder in people's lives that I've known since living in California that I used to live in Seattle. And the Mariners were national news for a while, and they were 8 outs away from playing your Dodgers in the World Series, and that would have been super, super special. But it was not to be. It's over. It was the furthest they'd ever gone. They've never been to a Game 7. I'm okay with it. It's just sports.
I think you can console yourself with the fact that had the Mariners won that game,
Yep.
that they would probably get absolutely crushed, which would be, I think, pretty disheartening for you because now they're doing it on more than just a national stage. Now they're doing it on the global stage because, as you know, the Dodgers are more of a global franchise now.
Correct.
But I think that the consolation you can take is that you got to enjoy a run, and I think that's what I think down in the pit of everybody's stomach. That's what sports fans want of their teams. Do they, unless you're a delusional Dallas Cowboys fan, you don't have a realistic expectation that your team is actually going to win it all. What you want your team to be is relevant, and you want to have the discussions. And you want those people to call you when they win or when you lose, because at least you're in the discussion. And I think that's what, when I told you, I think I was one of the ones that texted you and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, but hey, what a fun ride, huh?"
Yeah.
And so I think that when you're a team that's kind of an underdog like the Mariners, you really have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Whereas Dodger fans, and I'm speaking from experience, we have everything to lose. And I think even Ryan would tell you, as a Dodger fan as well, and most Dodger fans will tell you it's ring or bust.
Yeah, and that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Your season started 2 nights ago.
Mm-hmm.
And if it doesn't end with a World Series win, it's a disappointment.
That's right. It might as well have even not made the playoffs at all.
Yeah, right, exactly. I have not played golf since you and I played.
Wow.
Rams Hill, early June.
I've only played maybe half a dozen times since. So as a person that used to play at least once or twice a week, that's very little for me as well.
How many times have you played since going through what you're going through?
Today was my 3rd time.
Is it helping? Is golf helping?
No.
It's not?
No. I had my friend Saul came to Santa Barbara, said, "We're going to go play, make a time." We went out and played. It was nice. My mind was still on it.
Mm-hmm.
My mind has been on a number of things every day. I don't talk to my friends sometimes about super deep stuff because I'm one of those guys that does, like, again, I'm a layers guy, right? We'll get into it a little bit, but then it's very surfacey, you know. I played in another's event down in El Segundo last week. Didn't have a particularly great time doing it. And that's not to take away from any of the people that I played with or the club or any of those guys. Love playing with those guys. Playing with Gillis, love playing with those guys. There's nothing wrong with the fellas. It's just like I was telling you before, you can be in a room full of 50 people and feel completely alone when you're going through certain things. And so for me, golf has always been an outlet for me, day to day, you know, Porter, relationships, work, you know, whatever. Golf has always been a great outlet. However, going through what I've gone through has cut me so deep that it's hard to find joy in almost anything right now. And so, you know, you go, not to get super biblical again, but you start getting into this, you know, Ecclesiastes version of everything is meaningless and trying to find a purpose. And like, you know, if I go out today and I play well and have a good time, who cares? Like, I'm going to die someday. You know, it's a really dark place to be, and it's really hard to find joy, real joy in a lot of stuff. My friends reach out, people telling me it's going to be okay. And you're like, yeah, I know. You're saying the things that you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
You're saying the same things I would say.
Yeah.
And for me, it's been a very emotional person. And as a person that's emotionally disabled, as I am, it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And so every day is a battle. People say, are you having good days and bad days? I say, no, I have bad days and worse days. I want to have a good day. I want to wake up one day. Every night I just kind of, one of my best friends that I'm no longer friends with anymore used to tell me, like, hey, tomorrow's a new day. And I've been trying to live that. And it's been very, very hard.
At least you're trying. People give up in these situations, and at least you're trying. And there is nobility and honor in trying. So good on you for trying. And watch me try to steer this back to lighter-hearted topics.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that.
I want to read YouTube comments when we get out of here, but one more topic before we get to the YouTube comments. You have been an ardent defender of the Waste Management People's Open in Arizona. It's an event that you have been to 16 years in a row?
This will be 15.
Okay, so that's a long time out there. You know the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're not going to litigate that whole thing, but a lot of people who watched the Ryder Cup this year, and I don't mean to rehash a super old story, I just want to bring it up because I haven't talked to you about it. A lot of people who watched the Ryder Cup this year felt like it was the Waste Management on the national, actually international stage. What was your take on the fan behavior, the culture, and what we saw at Bethpage Black a month ago?
Embarrassing.
You were embarrassed by it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that, first of all, I listened to your guys' podcast as I normally do. I agreed with what both you guys had to say about that. My defense of the Waste Management is rooted in the Waste Management is supposed to have its place. In that, if you want to have the People's Open, and you want to be a jackass, and you want to be a frat boy, and you want to be one of the good, Brad Birdie culture guys, that's the place you do it. And I've always said that what's special about the Waste Management is that, hey, you got to have your break room, right? Like they have have you ever seen those rooms that people pay to go to where they just go and break stuff?
Yeah, they're called rage rooms.
Yeah, rage rooms.
Yep.
Like that's golf's rage room is the Waste Management. It's like that's where the fans can go and be themselves and interact with the players and if you're going to be cool, then be cool. If you're going to be a jackass, then try to push those limits there. But like I tried to say on my Drunken Stupor on the Christmas show is that the most beautiful thing about the Waste Management is that the next week is the Genesis where everybody tucks their shirt back in again and we're back at the yuppie Riviera, tuck your shirt in, wear the nice slacks, keep your mouth shut, watch golf, and it's kind of like the Waste Management is supposed to have its lane. And I think that the golf media, the meme pages like you were talking about, hasn't done a good job of containing it to just that event. They're saying that, hey, you see the Waste Management? This is what golf should be everywhere. On the flip side of that, you look at Augusta, you look at the Open, the U.S. Open to an extent. That's what the golf media should be saying, is that's what golf should be. Like I say at the Desert Nation Classic.
Or the Nation Desert Classic.
I'm sorry. What did I say it? How did I say it?
Desert Nation Classic.
Yeah, whatever. That's where I feel like you and Ryan call us all home. Kind of like when you're out and about doing your thing and then you got to come home for the holidays. It's like, okay, I got to tuck my shirt in now. Can't cuss around my parents. I got to mind my P's and Q's here for a weekend around my family. I can go act like a jackass when I leave and be myself. But for now, I got to show some reverence, some respect. And I think that I wish golf media was more pushing the Augusta culture on the rest of golf rather than the Waste Management culture. And I think these are two cultures that are on opposite ends of the spectrum. And golf media is kind of leaning to one side or the other. And there's just this huge magnet to pull it more towards the Waste Management side. And I think that when we get to events like the Ryder Cup and you start seeing people doing these stupid chants, and on top of that, the players are playing like crap. And when you got the Europeans pointing at the scoreboard, that's so embarrassing. I agree with the both of you that it was embarrassing. It was bad for golf in general. The Waste Management should stay in Scottsdale where it belongs. I love it there. Don't get me wrong. I love the Waste Management. I love the party let loose scene because there's a place for that. But it needs to stay there in the rage room. You don't take the rage room and go home to grandma's china and say, well, I did it at the rage room, so now I'm going to take it out on grandma's china.
Couple of YouTube comments before we get out of here. There was a lot of love for Ryan describing how to apply Gold Bond. I don't know if you heard the last episode. You're a big Gold Bond user. You told me to pack a lot for Rams Hill. I was talking about a double Gold Bond day, a day where you need to apply in the morning and then reapply in the afternoon. That was a couple of Fridays ago.
The mid-round wipe.
Yeah, yes. But Ryan was talking about how he likes to put a little dab on a piece of toilet paper, get under the undercarriage, and, quote, rough the passer.
There's a lot of science to that.
Will the Thrill Shore says, as someone who has to watch their team play the Dodgers in the World Series and was in Dodger Stadium when they won the World Series, I can confirm it is a great feeling. Will the Thrill is a Boston Red Sox fan. The Red Sox won the World Series in Dodger Stadium. I know they beat the Dodgers.
Did. That was one of the Alex Cora, I believe, cheating things, which I think that one was the one that really made the Dodgers throw up their hands, go super corporate, and just buy the league.
Right. Luke from Fort Collins says, definitely agree with Ryan's take on buffalo wings. They are an appetizer. My wife is obsessed with wings, and as long as we can find a wing place that also has chicken sandwiches, we will both be happy. So I know you didn't listen to last week's episode, but Ryan doesn't think of wings as a meal. He thinks of them as an appetizer. I ordered wings as a meal for Game 6 of the ALCS. I can eat wings as a meal. Can you eat wings as a meal, or do you view them as an appetizer?
I'm going to go out on a ledge and say I don't think buffalo wings are a meal or an appetizer. I think they're the worst part of a chicken. I just don't see much value in it at all. It's not enough meat. It's just a finger food, and I'm not a big fan of buffalo sauce. I'm not a big fan of buffalo wings. They're just bony chicken nuggets to me. If you're going to get an appetizer, get some nachos, get some jalapeno poppers or something like that. I'm just not a buffalo. Anything where you have to leave half of it back on the plate where everybody else is putting their hands on it.
It is a war zone after you're done eating it.
Yeah.
I used to bus tables at Tony Roma's. Were there Tony Roma's down here?
There was one in Santa Barbara when I was growing up, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
not
famous for their ribs.
Yeah, famous for their napkins.
Yeah, exactly. And I used to have to bus tables after people would eat full racks of baby back ribs. And that is the most disgusting thing, to have to pick up napkins off the floor that just have people's barbecue sauce and spit all over them.
Yep.
Absolutely disgusting. Last comment, Maxwell Ratty. I hope I'm saying that right. He's a realtor. He says, Hawk, I think you mistook Cal Raleigh's quote of winning the whole effing thing for Jake Taylor regarding the 1989 Cleveland Indians, which you can revisit in the blockbuster hit Major League. You'll have plenty of time to rewatch that now that your Mariners are out of the series. Great comment from Maxwell.
Where is he from?
He doesn't say. Probably L.A., potentially Toronto. Maybe he's an Angels fan. The Angels are rivals with the Mariners in the AL West. But the fact that he just stuck that knife right in my side at the end, telling me I'll have plenty of time to watch movies now that the Mariners are out, that's great. Love you for that, Max. It might have been said in Major League. I believe you that it was. But Cal Raleigh also took the mic and said those exact same words. Maybe Cal was quoting Jake Taylor. I don't know. But those words came out of Cal's mouth, and those words were printed as a quote on a T-shirt that was gifted to me, and the quote was assigned to Cal Raleigh. And I watched Cal Raleigh say that in a microphone. So this is a classic case, Maxwell, of we're both right.
Yeah, I think the reason why it was significant is because that is probably the most the movie Major League is a cult classic, and that's probably the catalyst for the entire movie when Tom Berenger, who's one of the best actors of my childhood, in my opinion, from that movie and Platoon and a few other movies, is when he says that, they're basically saying, the manager before him says, hey, if we don't, when this season's over, they're going to ship us all away and sell the team and all that. And Tom Berenger says, well, there's only one thing to do, which is just go win the whole effing thing. And I think it was more of the never say die attitude, and we got nothing to lose. Let's just send it. And I think that what a great, and I'm telling you as a Giants fan, and I remember 2007 when we beat the Cowboys. Cowboys were 15-1, beat the Packers in the NFC Championship. We had nothing to lose. And I remember the catalyst for that was, I think Michael Strahan or somebody had said, they're only going to score 17 points. And if anybody that remembers that 2007 Patriots team, it was probably the greatest offense ever. And Tom Brady looked in the mic with this snide, arrogant smile and said, we're only going to score 17 points. And I think they only scored 17 points. So I think that for me, that's a really great attitude to have. And I was super happy to see a team, with baseball the way it is, with these huge payrolls, and it's basically two different leagues now with the 5 teams that are paying bajillions of dollars, and then everybody else has to kind of fight for the scraps. It was nice to see the Mariners make a run at it. And up until I think the 6th inning or 7th inning, it looked like, wow, this might be super, super cool just to see him get there.
Yeah.
With all the history they have there with Griffey and Ichiro, and I was super excited for you. It's a shame it didn't happen, but whatever.
Yeah. Well, God bless you for saying that. I really appreciate it. And God bless you for stopping by the office and doing this podcast with me. We went for over an hour. I could have done another hour with you. I really appreciate all the honesty. And folks, I know a lot of you know Tony Bacardi. And do you want people reaching out to you? Because sometimes it's a burden to have to get back to everybody. So I'd love to tell people to reach out and show you some love, but maybe you don't want that.
I've had so many people reach out, and it's not, and I know there's probably a lot of people out there that I haven't gotten back to with a super appreciative message, but I'll be honest, there's nights when it's hard, and it's not getting easier yet. And sometimes I just heart it, or I just want them to know I saw it. Sometimes it's really hard for me to respond because I just don't know what to say.
Yeah.
I've gotten so many from people I've never talked to before, and they preface their statement, hey, I know we're not that cool, but I follow you, or I know who you are, or we've met once, or something like that. And that's one of the beautiful things, I suppose, about social media. But I would say, don't feel, if it makes you feel good, to reach out to me, I'll appreciate it. It's not going to be something that like makes me get down. So it's not going to hurt. But don't feel obligated to.
Well, so glad that you came by. Glad that you got to play golf today. And just great to spend this time with you. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of The Fellowship. Ryan Engel will be back next week.
Can't wait.
I can. This was nice not to get beat up the entire time.
No.
But we will talk to you next week.